This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nigel Farage.
Well, would you believe it? Chuka Ramuna's parliamentary committee looking into migrants and whether they're integrating has said today that migrants should learn English before they arrive in the United Kingdom or be given compulsory language lessons once they're here. This the very same Chuka Ramuna who absolutely slated and condemned me when I said I was on a train surrounded by people that couldn't speak the language and wondered what on earth was going on in my country. Has the centre of gravity shifted on this debate? I think the answer to that is undoubtedly yes. The question for you is this parliamentary committee report today a force for good or a force for bad? Is Chuka Ramuna now on the right track or not? Call me on 0345 6060 973 and give me your answer. But we are discussing Chuka Ramuna, and we're discussing his parliamentary committee, which said today, surprise, surprise, migrants should speak English, and if they don't, we will compulsorily make sure that they can. And I've been asking the question, does this mean the national debate is moving in the right direction? I think it does. But perhaps you're going to tell me we're all getting a bit too hung up on this, and that actually having sections of our communities that speak completely different languages and can't talk to each other, that somehow culturally that enriches us and makes us better. I don't believe it, but if you do, please call me and tell me. And I'm going to go to Abbas in Redbridge to see what he makes of this.
Hi there, good evening, Nigel.
Good
Thanks
evening.
for getting me on. Nigel, I think some of your views I do find somewhat skewed and, rather narrow-minded.
Go on.
Especially when it comes to, for example, when you talk about language skills, the angle that I'm coming from, I totally agree that whenever you go to any country, it's paramount that you learn the language to the best of your ability because, of course, that will help you to communicate, to integrate, and make life a lot easier for not just yourself, but obviously people who you'll be dealing with from a day-to-day basis. That's the angle that I'm coming from. And as a Muslim, in fact, one of the principles that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said is that when you're in a group of people, speak the language that is common to everyone, so people would not be suspicious of you in terms of that you might be talking about them. So that's a principle within even the Islamic tradition, for example.
Okay.
So that's the angle that I'm coming from. I think it's a very important thing. However, I do believe that at times, sometimes the language is rather robust and unsympathetic, especially when, you've already mentioned Spain. I've been to Saudi Arabia. I've been to Dubai, to Oman. I've been to places in Africa. And people sometimes have been there for decades, and they don't speak a word of Arabic, and they're not interested to learn Arabic. And they've been there for 12 or 15 years. Now, I'm not saying two wrongs make a right, but I'm just saying let's have a bit of a balance there.
Well, Abbas, be fair. I did say I was critical of our communities that have emigrated and live abroad and haven't even attempted to learn a few common pleasantries. I mean, I do agree with you on that. But Abbas, there was that text that I read out from the fella in Bradford saying there are people in his street who've been in Britain since the 1960s who don't speak the English language. And what the Casey report a couple of months ago was saying is that if communities are divided in every way, included by language in our big cities, and we don't have integration, we have distrust. And so I'm trying not to be narrow-minded. I'm trying, I think, to adopt a bit of common sense here.
Nigel, the issue here is this. I would agree with these type of reports because they highlight issues and problems, and of course we should all work together and resolve these issues and problems. But however, you have to look at it from all sides, not just from one side. I remember around 20-odd years, 25 years ago, my mother decided, I was born in Penge, southeast London. We were the only two Asian families in the entire school. I had no problems about racism within London. It was a real bubble. I only realised when my mother thought, let's go and live in Batley, which is about 10 miles from Bradford.
Yeah.
And my mother looked for a house to rent in a predominantly white area because that's what we had done in London. We never thought we should live in an Asian area or a black area or any other area, just a good area. And the amount of abuse that we got just whilst we were looking at the house, dirty packies, go home, you dirty packies, go home. My mother decided, I think for our own safety, I was only about 12, 13 years old, my mother decided it would be probably better to go and live in an Asian area, because living in this type of an area, my kids are going to get beaten up from school every day and they'd be told how they're dirty packies and they should go home. And so what you've got to realise, Nigel, is that a lot of the times integration is not just a consequence of foreigners not wanting to integrate with society here, but it's a reluctance of society here wanting to integrate with those people.
I think there is some truth. I know, Abbas, I think there is some truth in that, but I think there is some truth in that, in a sense that what a lot of people have said in big cities is, why has this fundamental change taken place without anybody ever asking us? I do understand that. However, I would say this to you, that if you compare attitudes in this country, I think we are miles ahead of all the other countries in Europe when it comes to, certainly 15, 20 years ago, the levels of integration, the levels of tolerance, the levels of respect for different faiths, different creeds. I think this country was head and shoulders above the rest of Europe on it. And it is a great shame that we've seen a decline in that situation. And I've argued all the way through, that irresponsible open-door immigration has been the problem, and that if people don't speak the language, it just makes it worse. That's all I'm arguing. But no, listen, I do take the points that you've made, and clearly, when you did move to that particular part of the north, it was a terrible shock for you and your family, and a horrible thing. And thank you very much indeed for your call.
Nigel Farage on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.